Hello everyone. So we're going to just take a few minutes just to get us going on project 3. So for the beginning part of this video, I'm going to just assume that you're kind of getting used to using R and RStudio on your own desktop. If you're using the VPN, then you could kind of ignore the first couple minutes of this video. And so if you're just now starting to use R and RStudio on your desktop, I would encourage you just to make a folder, just maybe something like stat213. You might already have this if you've exported all of your RStudio server materials like we did on the last day of class before break. And so within this folder, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder called project 3. And once I've got this new folder, I'm going to create a new R project, just like we did before. So I'm going to go to my applications, open RStudio. I already have it open with a different project. And so I'm going to head up to File, New Project, Existing Directory. I want to open this in a new session, and then I'm going to browse to that folder that I just created. So this is super similar to our working structure that we had when we were on the server, except now everything is local. And so if I click open and create project, that's going to give me this new RStudio window that I can now start using for project 3. So once you've got that set up, if you head over to our Sakai website and go over to the Resources tab, there's a folder for our projects, and we're going to be looking at project 3. And so there's a PDF instructions on the site, so you could kind of look and skim through that. For now, we're just jumping straight into the template, so go ahead and download that. Also download this Land Rover .csv dataset. And then thirdly, you'll need to download or find the car dataset that you used for project 2. We want all 3 of those files to be in this project folder. So now there's no upload button because everything is just on our computer. And so what I'm going to do to get all 3 of those files in this folder is I'm just going to drag and drop. And so let's see, so should have downloaded these 2 things in my downloads folder. So that's the template and this Land Rover dataset. So I'm going to drag those over to my desktop. And then the third thing you'll need is your car data. And so you might have to re-download that from Sakai. I've got some Lexis data that I'm going to use just to follow along. Once you've got all that, you just want to drag in those 3 files into your project folder. When I go back to my R project, they should all 3 be here. And so just like what we did with the server, I'm going to click the .rmd file to open it and see this nice template. The extra package that we'll need to install, so again, if you're VPNing, you won't need to install any packages because they've already been installed on the server for you. If you are not VPNing, you will need to install this PrettyDoc package. And so we're kind of giving our Markdown documents a little bit of a makeover by making them look like super pretty and super professional. And so again, that's this PrettyDoc package. And so the way that we installed packages was we just typed in this bottom left-hand window, install.packages, open quotes, and then PrettyDoc. So remember, you just need to install a package once. So in class, we installed Tidyverse and we installed stat2data. So you should not have to ever install those again. Once you install them, they're there, and then you could load them via this library command. So that looks like it was successful. And so you should then just be able to give this a quick knit. And hopefully what appears is something that looks like this, which is our super cool, super pretty Project 3 template that we're going to be working with. You could see that it looks nicer than the default R Markdown knit HTML file. There's some other themes that you could totally check out if you wanted to. For now, we're just going to make sure that we're all on the same page reading in our data. And so for model 1, we're just going to use the data set that you used for project 2. So you should be able to insert an R chunk. If you have your project 2 handy, you could copy a lot of the code. We're going to load in the tidyverse, read in the data. So mine's called lexusdata.csv, and I'm going to name that lexusdf. Just like we did in project 2, we're going to add a column with age, and so that's going to be, so with lexusdf, we're going to do 2020 minus the year. Now when I go to make a header of my lexusdf dataset, it's going to have price, mileage, and age, which is all we'll need for part 1. So you should be good to go there. For part 2, it's going to prompt you to kind of run some models comparing whatever car that you got from your project 2 to this Land Rover data set, which I picked because it was the most expensive car that I could find. And I just kind of thought it would be a fun comparison. And so when we go ahead and read in this Land Rover data set, we're going to do the same type of deal. Read.csv, landrover.csv. I'm going to name that maybe RovyDF. I still want to create an age column, so I want to do something like this. With RovyDF 2020 minus the year. That's going to make me this age column. And now the new thing that we haven't done is we want to combine the Land Rover dataset and whatever the car that you have, that dataset. So it's one big dataset. So before we do that though, I want to make sure that I can identify which observations come from which dataset. And so with my lexusdf, I'm going to make a new variable called maybe car type. And this variable I'm just going to call Lexus. With RovyDF, I want to still make this car type variable, but I want to identify observations in this dataset as Land Rover. And so hopefully when we combine data sets now, it'll be a little bit more clear what that did. So now I want to say with my new data set, both cars df, the command to combine data sets is rbind, which stands for rowbind. And so I'm going to bind together my Lexus dataset and my Land Rover dataset. When I go to look at this dataset, it now has this new column for car type. So now I could tell which observations came from the Lexus dataset, and I could tell which observations came from the Land Rover dataset. So tail will show us the last 6 observations, and we see that at least the last 6 observations came from that Land Rover dataset. So you'll be using this both cars df for model 2. That should be enough to kind of get you started, and you should be able to do this entire project just based on stuff that we did before spring break, so it shouldn't really cover anything new. So if you want to start working on it, you can go ahead and do that. As always, let me know if you have any questions or if you end up getting any coding errors as you're working through this project.